All right, so let's start diving in and looking at products. Now, products play obviously a very, very pivotal role when you are in the janitorial supplies industry. And so you're going to have an array of products, a variety of products in your warehouse, and you're going to have no shortage of products to sell. That can become a challenge. It can also be a good thing, but it can be a challenge, especially being new, because learning all the different products and all the different benefits of them and the different vendors and different suppliers and what have you can be a massive challenge. So what we want to do is we want to focus just on a few specific categories and make things a little bit easier. But we want to focus on the few categories that will allow us to grow our sales and also allow us to enter and create opportunities within an account depending on where they're at. Meaning that if you walk in and they've just bought an auto scrubber, then obviously there's probably no opportunity to sell them an auto scrubber for quite some time. So we want to be able to understand that when we walk in, that we are looking to create solutions, right, to problems they don't know they have. Because if they know they have a problem, they're already on it and they're fixing it. And they're already phoning their incumbent, the existing supplier, and they're saying, I have this problem. Can you help me? What do you suggest? So we want to create problems. We want to not so much create the problems. We want to expose the problems to them and then let them recognize that you have a solution and that they are going to buy from you for your expertise. And so we want to steal loyalty. They like the incumbent company they're dealing with and the salesperson they're dealing with. They are friends in many circumstances, especially in smaller towns areas. As a manufacturer's rep, I used to make calls with salespeople, and I would get in the car with them. We'd walk into a facility, and I remember numerous times you'd walk into a facility. I remember one particular time walk into a facility, and as we walked in together, his contact, the decision maker, was there. And he looks over and he sees a competitor's auto scrubber. And the decision maker looked at him and said, don't worry about it. We're not buying it. Right? So the loyalty to that sales rep was huge. He just had it in the building. He was demoing it. And he was doing it because he had to demo it, but he was going to buy the auto scrubber from the guy that I was with. And that's what you're dealing with. And possibly that's what your competitors are dealing with for you when they come to your accounts. So we don't change that by selling them an improvement. We don't change that by selling them an improvement. We have to create new opportunities with new technology ideas to them. The technology could have been around for 100 years, but it's to them. We are giving them a new opportunity, a paradigm shift. Before we can do that, we need to understand our products and the categories. So let's begin. So there's basically 4 categories: sanitation, paper, equipment, and chemicals. And I used to work for a distributor where we got paid on these 4 categories. We had a budget every month on these 4 categories. We had a one whole budget, but it was broken up into 4 segments. It had a chemical budget, it had an equipment budget, had a paper budget, had a sanitation budget. So those 4 categories, 4 specific categories, how I always remember it: specific, sanitation, paper, equipment, chemical, right? So When we look at these 4 categories, we break down the paper is paper towels and toilet tissue. Not just, it can be Kleenex, obviously, and different things, wipers, things like that. But those are the drivers. We have sanitation. We have garbage bags and brushes, mops, floor pads. We have equipment, and we have chemical. So what are some of the things about these 4 categories that we want to pay attention to and that we want to understand? Well, let's talk about sanitation. The 2 main ones I want to talk about are microfiber and matting. Now, we could talk about garbage bags as well, but there's not a lot to tell you about garbage bags, right? You know, it's different sizes, micron count. That's about it. So, but they are a driver. They are a cash flow business. They're something that people use every day and go through. So it's a great product to use. But today we're going to talk about and focus on microfiber. Why microfiber? Well, microfiber is a system. Cleaning rags that a lot of people use is not a system. Using microfiber properly helps clean a facility better. And there are certain ways to use the microfiber, certain ways to fold it, and things like that. But just from a product's perspective, let's talk about them. Well, number 1 is they reduce chemical. They clean without chemical. In fact, if you get a blue microfiber cloth, which is traditionally for cleaning glass, and just wet it, wring it out, or don't even have to wet it, but and then clean a window, it comes clean without window cleaner, right? A lot of places in Europe and stuff that don't even use products. They use strictly microfiber. So they definitely reduce chemical. They also clean on a microscopic level. They actually take microorganisms and dirt off of surfaces like 100%. So they really clean well. They come in different colors, which is great for color coding. So meaning, you use one color for washrooms, you use one color for hard surfaces, you use one color for windows, right? So they have a color coding system, which is great. They eliminate dusters because they actually grab the dirt, and instead of moving dirt around, but with a duster, it grabs the dirt, it holds the dirt, and it doesn't release the dirt easily. Okay, holds 4 times its weight. The dirt of a rag, 4 times, and it's 7 times its weight. So if it's a quarter pound, it can hold a pound and a half of dirt. And when laundered properly, they last for at least 100 washes, if not more. So they last like 2 years, and the benefits of them is astronomical. They help make cleaning easier. So microfiber is important in respects to the tools we're going to use to deliver the outcomes we want to deliver, which we will eventually talk about in further detail. Matting is incredibly important. How does dirt get into a building? It can get into the building by floating into the air and going through windows and things like that, open windows, things like that. Absolutely. But most of the dirt and debris that comes into a building has been brought in by people. It's been brought in by it being on their shoes. Microorganisms, bacteria brought in with their hands, right? So matting is absolutely huge. It's your first line of defense. And having one of those little mats that a lot of matting uniform companies drop off are next to useless. Are they better than nothing? Sure. But you want to have a great matting system. So definitely reach out to your matting manufacturer and have a conversation with him or her on the 3 types of matting that they have, and the best use. But what you want to have is as much matting as possible as that building holds. And you want to have matting that is outside the building, in the foyer, and then in the building as you walk into the building. A great place that has really good matting most of the time for most locations is Walmart. You walk into Walmart and they know the importance of matting, And so you walk a good 20, 30, 40, 50 feet and before you hit the tile floor. And so most of the dirt is off the feet of the customers before it gets in. So it makes cleaning the facility a lot easier. So that reduces liability because the dirt, grime, and water all comes off your feet before you get into the building. And matting has distinct purposes. There's matting that's designed just to take mostly water off. Some take the debris off. So having a 3-stage matting is important. And if the dirt does not come into the building and it comes off your feet into the matting, then you're improving the indoor air quality, right? You don't have dirt and dust and grime floating up into the air. It's been taken and captured by the mat. So it reduces cleaning costs. Having 30 feet of matting is ideal. As I said, it's the first line of defense, right? And it traps everything. Now, you're going to see here it says $500 to remove a pound of dirt. When I started in this industry in 1994, that was the stat I was given. So that's from an old 3M study that's over 30 some odd years old. We know that costs and labor have gone up substantially since the early 90s. So we therefore know that it costs a lot more than that. Okay, so there's a huge cost to having inefficient matting. A huge cost in labor increases as your matting decreases. And also, 42% of floor finish can be saved by having proper matting because the little pebbles and rocks and grit and sand come off your shoes instead of being on your shoes and then walking and being like sandpaper, removing the floor finish on the floor. So, matting, microfiber. We want to look at paper. Now, paper, as you know, is about 50% of your business. Having said that, the margins are low, but paper is important to have because it helps build orders, right? It builds orders, same with garbage bags. Paper and garbage bags, right? They're lower margins, but people order them on a weekly basis, if not weekly, monthly, definitely regularly. So we want to look at paper, but what we want to look at is we want to look at the best paper to sell from a health and safety standpoint and from an environmentally standpoint. So we want to look at, what kind of dispensers are there, and dispensers can help. Now, dispensers can be also very annoying, right? A lot of companies try to set it up where, the dispenser puts out 6 inches, 8 inches of paper towel, hoping that we're just going to go one. Oh, that's good. That's good enough. If you've been any major washrooms in an airport or a mall, you know that people use a lot more than that. So dispensers help reduce that, but there's the challenge of the paper towel and how much you get. So recognize that. Hand dryers versus paper towel. It's a personal preference for me, but I really do not like hand dryers. Some people do. They think it's more environmentally friendly. Well, there's energy costs of the energy of the hand dryer versus the manufacturing of the paper towels. There's a debate there to be had. But we want to look at chlorine-free, ink-free, dyes-free, fragrance-free, right? And we want to look at the amount of post-consumer waste that is used, and we want to look at virgin fibers, things of that nature. But we want to look at putting environmentally friendly paper into the facility and recognizing that it is a highly commoditized segment, and we need to sell it. It represents about 50% of our sales, but the margins are low. So it helps build orders, and that's why we sell it. Equipment. Now, equipment is one of those things where it can really be great to your monthly budget. If you get a good hit on equipment, it can really bump up your sales for the month, and it makes selling look easier, helps you get your numbers. And focusing on having a piece of equipment per month is a great strategy if you can. But you're looking at somewhere between 3 to 6 months and even a year ahead. So it's one of those things that you always need to be thinking. You need to be thinking 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months out. Sometimes you get lucky and someone just picks up the phone and says, hey, I need an auto scrubber or what have you. But most of the part, this is just a strategic sell, and it's something that you're working with your customer to get them to invest in for their facility. Now, some of the things we want to look at, whether or not it's an auto scrubber or a vacuum or a burnisher or what have you, is we want to look at the type of filtration that it holds. And also we want to have, HEPA type filtration, which means it's going to take about 99% of all the dirt and hold it and not let it expand out into the atmosphere. That has a direct impact on human health. Without dust and stuff floating into the air, it's been entrapped. So now our breathing is better and easier. We want to look at the size of the equipment we're using. Are they 20 inches? Is it 20 inches? Is it 28 inches? Now, we want to look at the variables of how big the hallways are, how big the door entrances are, things like that. But we want to be aware of that because the larger the piece of equipment, the less labor it takes to vacuum that hallway, as an example. I've been in conference centers where I've seen conference centers where I'm in a conference center that is absolutely massive, and someone is cleaning with a small little 12-inch canister vacuum. Like, that will take hours. So you imagine all of a sudden having a high-powered 30-inch, 40-inch vacuum that goes up and down, right? So you can get the idea of the amount of labor that's going to be saved. Decibels, decibels matter. Having under 70 decibels is best if possible because the loudness of the machine is reduced, and it's better for hearing. It's better for patrons. It's better for customers and employees, so they can continue to work and have phone conversations, things like that. So we want to look at equipment and recognize that equipment plays an important role. And so as we move forward, we want to recognize these 4 categories, that these are the 4 primary things we're looking at as we enter a building. What are their chemicals? What are their sanitation? What are their paper? What equipment do they have, right? These are things we're looking at. We're walking in, we're analyzing a facility all the time around these 4 specific categories, ideally. Chemical is the driver. As you know, it has the highest margin. It plants you in a facility when someone's using your chemical and they've trained their staff on it and they have their bottles labeled and everything. Then it obviously is a way to entrench yourself into that account. Now, we're going to dive deeper into all these categories and talk about things down the road. But for this segment, I just want to talk about the 4 categories from a 40,000 foot view. Now, we want to look at the way that the product is made. So as an example, is the product bio-based or petroleum-based? So bio-based means it's made out of plant derivatives, soy, corn, things like that. All things being equal, having bio-based products is more environmentally friendly. It's a renewable resource, and it has a selling point. Now, not all of us and all of you are going to have the opportunity and the ability to sell bio-based products. But if you do have that opportunity, it's just an added little benefit. It's another talking point. It's a differentiator than your competitors, right? You want to look at the biodegradability of the product. How long is that product put into the facility that it actually evaporates and is gone? Okay, so some products are gone in a day or 2. Yes, we look at it and it's gone. It's gone within 30 seconds or a minute or whatever. But environmentally, it's still on that surface. The question is how long? And so how long for 100% biodegradability? That's something to look at. Endocrine disruptors, this is huge. A lot of ingredients have been controlled or banned in different countries, but not so much in the United States. So an endocrine disruptor is the system of glands, each of which secretes different types of hormones directly into the bloodstream. Okay, so products can be endocrine disruptors. As an example, I don't know if the stat is true, but I've heard it a number of times. So I believe there's some validity to it. But apparently, the majority of nurses in the world have chemical residues in their bloodstream, in their system, because they are around chemicals all the time. They're leaning on the bed rails, the custodians are cleaning. So, that is an example of something getting into your bloodstream and potentially impacting your health. We want non-carcinogenic products that have no suspected carcinogens in it. We want something that has zero aquatic toxicity. That means that once it's been sprayed and goes down into the drain, that it's not going to hurt the fish and things like that. And there's a lot of products out there that do. We want non-toxic. We want products that are not going to burn your skin, be harmful to your health and or life if it's accidentally ingested. We want non-corrosive, non-combustible, right? And we want to not have transportation of dangerous goods associated to it if possible, right? So there's all these things we want to look at. We don't just want to look at, oh, it's a general purpose cleaner and it cleans, and so that's why I'm selling it. We want to look at the building, at the facility we're walking into, holistically, right? We want to look at it. Okay, these are the 4 categories that I am looking at selling them. What are they using right now? What is the best angle and position to differentiate myself and to create value for them? So these are things we want to look at. And also, when it comes to chemicals, having a chemical dispensing system can really help in a few ways. Number one is it can cement you into that account, because you're going in there, or someone on your company's going in there and hanging those dispensers. Now, that is time consuming, and I've hung hundreds of dispensers in my life. But once they're on the wall, you have a sense of, okay, this account's mine. It's going to, they're going to be around for a long time. Now, the benefit of a dispenser is it cements you into the account. Number 2 is it takes the guesswork out of dilution control. Your customer pushes a button, it dilutes the product perfectly. It prevents the customers from being exposed to concentrates and or chemicals. So if it's a locking system, most of the employees don't even touch concentrated product. All they ever touch is diluted product that comes out and fills up their mop bucket or their spray bottle. So there's a huge safety aspect to it and a human health aspect to it. The downside of it is that it is costly, and somebody is paying for these dispensers. It's either the manufacturer, it's either your company, or it's either you coming off on your commissions. So we want to put dispensers in when appropriate, but we don't want to put dispensers in every single area possible because there's a huge cost to it, and they're somewhere in the vicinity of $400, $500, and even $600 cost. So we want to recognize that if we put in 5 dispensers, as an example, that's $2,500. That means that we need to sell approximately $13,000 to pay through gross profit on that account. So sometimes it's going to take a year to get that money back. Somebody's paying for this. So even though it's a great thing to have and it helps you solidify that account, there's a cost associated to it, and you want to take that into account and recognize that. But they give you accurate dilution. They make health and safety a lot better. And usually you're using super concentrated, so you're ordering less. You're not carrying and lifting 20-liter pails, 18.9-liter pails. So there's a huge benefit to them, but there's also a huge cost to them, and it's something to be aware of. So that is the segment on the products, on the 4 segments. We're with 4 specific categories that we want to focus on: sanitation, paper, equipment, and chemical. Now it's time to dive a little deeper into